In the previous video, I talked about what financial independence is and its significance. But in this video, let's talk about some of the building blocks and some of the beginning steps and pieces. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar. Please like the video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. So this video is going to, in this video I'm going to discuss what some of the beginning steps of working towards financial independence are. And this video was in part inspired by the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, who announced last week that they're seeking financial independence from the royal family. And from what I've heard in the news or that I saw on Twitter, they've already started enacting their plan. But what's for your average working Joe and Jane on Main Street, what can they do to start to work towards financial independence if that's what they want to do? So just like the previous video, I'm reshooting this because I used a Tribe Called Quest song in the original shoot of this video, and I ran into the copyright claim thing when I uploaded a video yesterday. So I'm reshooting this now. Let's see. So a lot of people, in the previous video I described the Bible for getting rich and getting out of the rat race and onto the fast track, the Rich Dad Poor Dad series by Robert T. Kiyosaki. And one of the criticisms of that book is that Robert talks about building wealth, getting rich, getting out of the rat race and onto the fast track, but he doesn't say how. And I'm thinking back to one of the Rich Dad informationals or workshops I went to, and that particular teacher said that those initial books are about context as opposed to content. So those books are setting you up, and they're setting your mind up to kind of think a little bit differently than it was thinking before. Many of us went to school and trained to become employees as opposed to business owners and entrepreneurs and wealthy people. We were trained to work for someone else for 30 years or more, or 20 years or more at a job, and to retire. And so those books are introducing new ideas and new thought processes. So what do you do once you've started thinking about these new thought processes and ideas? What happens next? Well, in the last video, I said it starts with some reading and some study. And I listed off a couple of books, the Rich Dad Poor Dad series, Dave Ramsey's books, Financial Peace University, the Millionaire Next Door series, and also introduced a book for kids called Turn $100 into $1 million by the Biz Kids. I think the title's a little bit longer than that, but I can just remember that part of the title right now. So in short, it involves a little bit of reading. And in my video talking about your parents teach you what they know, I may have, and me and my mother go back and forth about this a little bit, and these are not easy conversations to have. It may sound like sometimes I dwell on what my parents didn't do and what I didn't get in my home ecosystem, but we did get a lot. And a major component and a major tool that both my mother and my father put on me and my brother's tool belt was the ability to read and the ability to think and the ability to seek new information and the ability to digest new ideas and to process those ideas and to come up with new ideas. So the ability to read and assimilate information is very critical to one's journey towards financial independence. Reading, thinking, processing new information, and coming up with new ideas. You got to have those tools there. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for that. So reading. So before I get into some of the more concrete steps, the Rich Dad series versus the Financial Peace University series. I've done a lot of thinking about this since I read many of the books in the Rich Dad series, and I've actually helped teach the Financial Peace University before. They're both important. The Rich Dad series, I think, is geared more towards getting out of the rat race and leaving behind being an employee and becoming a business owner or an investor. And in some instances, whether intentioned or not, in some instances, Robert can kind of belittle employees a little bit. And I think that that's a personal choice if you want to be an employee for all of your life, or if you want to go on and become something else, that's a personal choice. And I don't think people should be shamed for that. Financial Peace University is more geared towards, if you're an employee, getting your personal finances set so that you're not in a continual financial crisis, or so that you're not teetering on the brink of financial crisis. So one deals with becoming more of an investor slash business owner, and the other one is geared more towards getting your personal finances straight. I can make the argument that doing Financial Peace University first would be better, because if you're an employee, it will be very hard to become an investor slash business owner if your personal finances are not straight first. But if you're familiar with either of the two programs, let me know what you think in the comments section below. So what are some of the important points from the Rich Dad Poor Dad series? Well, I think one of the very important points, and I've started, I'm reading the book for the third time right now. It's a very easy read, and I think every time you read something, you get different things from it. But one of the important teaching points from that book is the 3 cash flow patterns. And so Robert argues in the book that there's a cash flow pattern for the poor, and a cash flow pattern for the middle class, and a cash flow pattern for the wealthy and the rich. So let's start with the poor. So the poor, and there are diagrams for this. I'm going to show the diagrams here. For the poor, basically, Robert shows that the money comes in to a person's income statement, which shows their income and their expenses. And it shows that their money comes in and it goes right out through the expense column. So let me go back. So Robert introduces a balance sheet, or a personal financial statement in the book. So you have your income statement at the top, which shows your income and your expenses, and then your balance sheet at the bottom, which shows your assets and your liabilities. Okay, so income statement, balance sheet, and your personal financial statement is the whole thing. So for the poor, any money that comes in goes right out due to their expenses. For the middle class seeks to buy liabilities. So they buy things that take money out of their pockets in the form of loans or other obligations. So mortgages, car notes, loans on depreciable items, credit card debt, those kinds of things. So the middle class, they tend to buy things that make them look rich, or they buy things that make them feel better, but they basically build up liabilities, and their money pays those liabilities off, and those are their expenses. What the wealthy people do is they buy assets. They buy income generating assets like real estate, or businesses, or they create things that create residual passive income streams. So for those of you who don't know, passive income, in theory, is income that comes in while you're sleeping at night. So you set something up, a business, or you bought a piece of real estate, or you acquired a franchise, or you established a royalty that's basically paying you while you're at the golf course or sleeping or doing something else, versus a job where you're making W-2 income and where you're trading your 8 hours a day for wages. So you have passive income and you have wages. And the passive income, another, I guess passive income can be synonymous with profits. So you're looking at making profits versus wages. And so those are the three cash flow patterns for the poor, the middle class, and the wealthy. In his follow-up book, Cash Flow Quadrant, which is another excellent read, and I highly recommend that. And there's another content creator named Erica Williams who highly recommends Cash Flow Quadrant as well. The Cash Flow Quadrant, it basically gives a depiction of where everyone falls out in society. And so it's literally a quadrant. I'm going to show it here. On this side, you have the E and the S, the employee, and the self-employed individual, which is usually a specialist of some kind. And that's on the left side. And on the right side, you have the business owner and the investor. So the employee is the employee. Once again, they're going off to work a job every day for W-2 income, earning wages. The self-employed person is usually a specialist, but they have to do that skill and perform that skill to get paid. And then over here on the right, you have the business owner who owns a business. Could be a Five Guys, McDonald's, a Chick-fil-A, or a piece of real estate. And then you have an investor who is a variation of the business owner who has a keen knowledge of where to put money so that it will generate more money. And if I've gotten that last part wrong, please correct me in the comment section below. But the key distinction is that the tax laws are different for individuals on the left and individuals on the right. So money gets taxed differently depending upon which side of the cash flow quadrant you're on. And the reason this is important, it goes back to this whole Jeff Bezos Amazon controversy where people say he's not paying any tax. And it's not that him and his business are not paying tax. They're just paying tax differently than the average working Joe and Jane on Main Street. That's a whole separate discussion, and I'll probably revisit that in another video later. But the last thing I'll say here is that there are political implications to this once again, and there are political implications to this. And where you are on that cash flow quadrant, I can make the argument will very much dictate who you vote for in elections. So I'll stop at that point there. Understanding the difference between industrial age and information age thinking. So in the previous video, I talked about how my father kind of thought that my dream at that time to be financially free by 40 years old was insane. And the reason he thought that was because he was coming from a certain paradigm, which was industrial age thinking. Industrial age thinking is where you go off to a job every day to earn wages and to earn W-2 income. You're trading your time for money. Versus information age thinking, which is using all of the technological tools that we have now to create multiple streams of passive income. And actually, there were ways years ago, before we got the internet and all these cell phones and social media, to make multiple streams of income. But in the information age, we just have so many more tools available to do it now. You have YouTube, you can create blogging platforms, you have social media, you have all these tools now that you can use to make money now. So that's information age thinking. You're thinking of making multiple streams of income passively. using all the tools available to you versus just going away to work a job every day for 20 to 30 years, hoping to retire in your twilight years. So some keys to working towards financial independence. Robert talks about in his book, among other things, finding new friends. And this kind of goes back to what I just told you about my father, is that many people are living, we're all in this physical space together, but many of us are living in different worlds mentally. And as my brother likes to say nowadays, many of us have segued into different tribes. So you may have friends, you have your relatives, you have your friends, but they're not always interested in the same things that you are. So take this game, for example, Cash Flow. This is the board game, and I played this. You can play the board game physically with people, and you can also play on your PC digitally, which I was doing when I was staying with my father. There was one family get-together where I bought this game, and I proposed to play it, and I have some other cousins who are really into playing just games in general. And I introduced this game, Cash Flow 101, and my cousin said, well, let's play these other games too. So this is a learning game. This game, it's very special, and to be honest, you can't play it with everybody because there are specific learning points to this game, and not everybody is interested in learning the principles behind this game and the tools that you would get from a game like this. But it, just like Robert's books, this game Cash Flow 101, it makes you start thinking like an investor and like a wealthy person. So you might have to find specific people that you can do things like this with. Let's see. Robert discusses finding mentors, and that's critical. It's mentors can help us on our journeys, particularly if they've reached those destinations already, and they can prevent us from making the mistakes they've made. I have a mentor right now who I talk about sometimes, and he's teaching me a lot about money and investing, and he and one of his colleagues are saving me a lot of energy and a lot of time. And once again, you might have to go outside of your family circle and your friendship circle to get the information that you need. And people who don't understand what you're trying to do, again, they might try to knock your dreams down and discourage you. So that's why finding other friends, if necessary, and finding a mentor is critical. Now, this last piece right here is, from experience, is really, really critical. And that's that you have to have the right significant other and or spouse. And I have a lot of experience with not finding the right significant other and or spouse, particularly having these dreams and aspirations. And the reason for this is, the person, if it's your significant other or your spouse, you're spending so much time with this person, and at some point you're probably likely combining incomes and your financial lives are overlapping. So if that person is not supportive of what you're doing, and if you have aspirations of investing and building wealth and acquiring assets, and they just want to work the rest of their lives, and they just want to spend all of their money on luxuries and indulgences, you guys are going to bump heads, and that person is going to prevent you from doing what you want to do and getting done what you want to get done. So you have to make sure that you're with the right person, and if you're meeting someone, you want to kind of explain this and get this out there early as opposed to later, because later it's kind of too late. So that's all I wanted to say about starting down that road and what some of the beginning steps and the beginning pieces are towards financial independence. The first step is you have to read books, maybe even crack open the business section of your whichever newspaper you read. Maybe you take a peek inside the Wall Street Journal or whatever the business section is of your local newspaper. For me, it's the Washington Post. I don't get in the Washington Post and read the business section every week. There just isn't time, but whenever I have the opportunity to, I get in there and I try to learn something new. And I often do. And then lastly, it's a learning to become financially free, to invest, to build businesses, to acquire assets, and to dream about financial freedom and walking away from your job. That's a cultural and a paradigm shift. So you're entering a new world and you're entering a new tribe, as my brother says, than people who are content or people who have been trained to be employees for their entire lives. So I'm going to stop this video here. If you have any comments or questions, or if you have anything to add to this discussion, please leave those in the comments section below. I will leave any materials that I think are germane to this discussion in the description box. Please like the video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. And once again, always remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.